Hello chess friends, and welcome to Azaro's chess channel, and welcome to my advanced chess theory and to the part 3 of the King's Indian defense. Today we'll show you again the orthodox line or the classical line, but with a little difference from White's perspective. So where he will not try to get a fast advance on the queen side, he will try a blocking system on the king side. So I'll show you two common blocking systems that white can approach, and how he should handle this types of opening lines. So the first game I want to show is what's played between Tyler Arnold and Krishnan Sashikiran, the Indian with the black pieces, and here I will start with this common orthodox setup, and after knight to e7, white plays again this knight to e1, and now knight to d7, knight to d3, and now f5. Now comes f3, and here black tries h5, but h5 would have come anyway. So here um, white tries bishop to d2, but we will see the reason behind it. After f4, now rook to c1, just simply developing moves. White doesn't want, after the push of f4, to play the bishop to f2. He wants to place the knight here, so he could have more protection on this g4 output. So he would protecting with his h3 move and f3, and with the bishop, and if needed with the queen. So just to prevent black to push g4. So the rook c1, then came g5, now c5 again forward. White plays simply attack on the queen side, but after g5 now comes this knight to f2. It seems that no breakthrough by black is possible, but you should just continue to develop here with this knight to g6, improvement of the position. And now after knight to b5, black played this, I said it before, it's an important defensive move, rook to f7. But you'll see in this game, this rook to f7, it's not only defensive, it will become one of the biggest attackers of black on white's king side. So has sort of a flexible seventh rank, where he can move around. So after the rook f7, now comes a4. Just want to somehow weaken with maybe a5 and a6, just weaken the queen side. But now bishop to f8, just simply getting some more protection of this weakness of d6. And now after taking, black decide to take with the bishop. So this is okay, because if white takes with the pawn, then the bishop is sort of blocked. And we said in this sort of blocking systems, you prefer your knight. So it's okay here to give up the bishop, because it doesn't do anything, and no g4 threats are possible yet. So in the game, black took with the bishop, and white took the bishop. So, but you see, no bishop around. White has the advance of the bishop pair, but it's a really good coordination of the pieces. And after move like rook to g7, it will be an attack on the king, sort of a discovered attack on the king. So the bishop cannot do anything anyway. So if you see my game that I show you from with the Nakamura game, he placed the bishop on h6, but after some pushing of g4, the bishop was on f2, so it wasn't attacking the rook discoverably. So I think it's an okay trade of pieces. So in the continuation, a5 came. Just want to, as said, just creating some weaknesses on the queen side, and now came this discovered threat of the rook on the king on g7. So now white tries this whole blocking system, just want to somehow weaken the queen side and sort of a protecting, but now you see you have this very good square for the knight, this h4, and it's in some variations, some tactical shots on g2 are even possible. So you have to calculate sometimes if you can, when you place your knight on h4. It's also a common sacrifice in the King's Indian, but that was not the motif here in this game. So now came bishop to e1. Well, the idea is that black wants to get rid of this annoying knight here and move his king from the g file, and so he would have still a flexible attack on the queen side. So he was trying sort of solving his problems with his knight. Now came simply developing move bishop to d7, and now this threat on knight on h4, and black retreated the knight again on g6. But the position is different now. Although black played two moves with the knight, he developed his bishop, his light square bishop, and the bishop on e1, the black bishop, isn't doing so much anymore. And you see black, pardon me, white left now the defense of g4, and now he tried here the attack on this d6. So if white plays this defensive setup with knight on f2, he should probably stay onto it. And now black uses this leaving of the knight, of the protection, and leaves this d6 pawn, but it's not so dangerous anymore for him if black takes on this d6. So after exchange, now came this d6, and now again this g3, and now came knight took on e5, and now black took, of course, on e5 too, and now this discovered attack on the bishop, and again with this motif of the liberating the queen. And after a couple of moves, after bishop to c4, the queen came, and here white resigned. So black would simply taking this bishop after a couple of moves. So it's a losing game for white. So I think if white plays this protective system, he should stay on to it. But you see, it's a little bit problem with this knight on h4. So some sacrifices are possible for black, and you see in the position after knight to h4, and after knight to h4, white also doesn't have a clear plan how to attack the queen side. So his attack is not so strong anymore, and with this knight on h4, it was well, it was a simple threat, but white reacted wrong. The other game that I want to show you, it's a different defensive setup by white, and it was played between Kwang Liam Lee and Teimur Rajabov. Teimur Rajabov is also a very good grandmaster. He often also plays the King's Indian, and his games of the King's Indian are very nice. So again we go to this orthodox setup. Now e5, castling, knight to c6, and now d5, and after bishop to e3, f5, f3, f4, and now after g5, now this g4. So you see, if black takes en passant, well, the attack is not so uh, good for black anymore, because the king will come to g2, and white has many pieces to protect his king, and he can still play on his attack. So after moves like maybe rook to f6, of course white would have played rook to h1, just to support the h file, so he wouldn't allow black to go on h6. So I've seen games that are played with this en passant taking, but I recommend you not to do that. So after g4, I recommend you just to play here this simple developing move, and go for the weak square again on this h5 h4, this weakness of white's position. So you see, there are not so many weak squares on the board for white, and it's h4 is the only weak square that white has. So but you see, you can also play on a weak square, even it's on the end of the board. So here now simple development by white, of course preparing c5. Now comes this uh, h5, just want to break somehow this pawn chain here, and the white reacted with h3. Now again, you should try this rook to f7 maneuver, and but with a different idea. You want to support with your rook to h file now, because on the g, if you place it on the g file, it's not so dangerous anymore as it was in the first position that I told you, because you have this pawn in front of your own rook, and the attack wouldn't be so dangerous. So after c5, black took on g4, just want to undermine this very good pawn chain, and after taking on g4, white's idea is to play king to g2 again, and challenging black on the h file. So here, if you see this position, well, the knight, black's knight is in a good square, the rook is on a good square, and well, this knight is blocking out the bishop, and this bishop is well, it's blocked by his own pawns. So Temur Rajabov finds a very good maneuver how to activate his pieces, and it's this coloration again. In my previous videos I told you this correlation between bishops and pawns. So if you could just somehow trade these two bishops, that would be very fine for black. Black would get rid of his weak black square bishop, and if he could trade it for the very good of white, then he could get on the advance here. That's what Temur Rajabov goes for. He took on c5 after taking with the knight taking, and now challenging the bishop on c5. So of course white has the advance on space, but you see, after trade of bishops, white would be continuing the game with this very weak light square bishop, because it would be now blocked by his own pawns, and would left here with this very weak squares around black's king. And you see after potential exchange of bishops, now no support on this h4 anymore. So white tried b4. If taking, then it would be flexible position of this c5 and d5 pawns, and now came this rook on the h file. So king to g2 must come to play rook to h1, challenging this rook on the h file. And now a simple developing move by black, bishop to d7. Now comes queen to b3. Black gets out of the way of this potential diagonal attack on the king. So now after rook to h1, Rajabov played knight to h4. So you see, very good square for the knight now, and the king must go to f2. So, but on f2 is also blocking again this dark square bishop to challenge this very good knight on h4. So Rajabov played again a simply forward move. Again, I've told you he isn't bothered if he gets a trade of this dark square bishop. So after bishop to b5, a simple developing move, moving the queen from the 8th rank, and now came queen to c4. So after a couple moves, after the exchange of bishops that came, finally white tries this again. This expands on the queen side, so he goes forward on this on his first plan to play on the queen side. But now you see how weak these dark squares around the king are, and there are many threats for white. He has the dark square bishop to support the defense of the king, and he moves his king on e2, so he don't get checked. Now came queen to b6, and now queen to d3, a forced move to protect this annoying check on e3. Now again a simple developing move, again moving the bishop on a more active square, and now it came rook to b1. But now Rajabov plays this very good move, a5. It blocks out. He managed to get a blocking system on the queen side, and no threats of pushing the pawns on the b and the a file are possible anymore. And now came knight on d1. Well, the idea is to get the protector of this squares around the king by the knight, and maybe somehow play rook to c1 or similar things. But now black took first the c file, and now after knight to f2, black connected his rooks again, so he could get a more flexible position with his rooks. And now white challenged the rook on c8 with this rook from h to c1. After a trade, now a very good maneuver by the knight. Now he comes, I said it, no protection on the dark squares anymore by the bishop for white, and now he has this weak square of e3. Very good play by Rajabov. He found the squares very well for his knight. So now came an attack by the king, but Rajabov plays very active, and after king to g1. He finds a very active move, a grandmaster move here. He played knight to e1, of course on the attack, on with the threat of mate. And after the queen came to the protection of the f2, Rajabov played rook to f2, and here white resigned, because if white takes, then queen takes, and he would be the fork on the king and the rook, and of course it's a losing game. It's a losing game for white here. So you see, uh, these are the most common blocking system in the King's Indian by white, and I hope I'll show you how, well, a little bit, some kind of approach how you should handle this kind of blocking systems. And in my next video I'll show you how you should handle in the orthodox variations when white plays a gambit, so if he sacrifices a pawn or something. So I hope you enjoyed the video. More King's Indian videos are to come, and chess is the best, guys. See you next time.